pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, roll call.
Logan Johnson,
Beverly Fickus,
Pam Beaver.
Scott McVeigh,
Terry Lincoln.
General Manager Paul Kelly.
Administrative Assistant Shannon Perry.
Open time. Anybody want to speak?
Yeah, anybody to address the board on something not on our agenda? Otherwise, we'll move right to the consent calendar.
Okay.
On the custom transaction detail, the Badger meter, we spent another $15,766. How many more do we have to order? I'm just curious. Because it seems like we've been doing 15,000.
Yeah, the up to now represents about 25% of the meter registers and transponders.
Oh, only 25%?
Yeah,
it's all covered by the grant.
remember this was to be covered by the grant, at least most of it. We have ordered for the upcoming 12 months, 1,740 some odd transponders.
Yeah, when these transponders come, this will quicken the time when the guys are doing the
Meter reading.
meter reading.
Yeah, what we have right now is there's something like 300 plus that have registers and transponders that are getting up to the 18-year-old range, and they're not working as well. So we were on a plan to replace those, which we started last year. And then there's quite a few meters that don't even have them. So they're a lot of our manual reads where you guys gotta get out and
Do we have it out, how many are installed?
how many are installed? That I do not know.
Because we're getting them, so are we installing them?
Yes, so that, the biggest challenge right now is that we had negotiated with Badger to send us about 10% of them a month, so that we could receive them, install them, and get the reimbursement from the county. They sent about 25% of them, so that's why we've got such a high amount right here. So we've only installed probably, a handful, 10 or 15, but they're, the guys are gonna do another 20 or 30 of them next week because they're meter reading this week, installing next week.
And so then once they're installed, we can apply for a reimbursement. Right now, it comes out of our general fund.
Correct. We are interpreting the Shasta grant as once we've received them, we are applying for reimbursement.
Okay.
Because we basically, it's quite a bit of money, so
Yeah.
that's why we're doing it that way.
Okay, that's why I asked how many, if they didn't pay us until they get installed, then
They've already paid us for one of our requests, and Melissa was submitting another one today, actually.
Great.
Yeah. And this one has already been submitted.
Everybody fine with the minutes?
We had a few bills that were flagged,
Yeah.
and I flagged 3 myself. One was the Strange and Sons chain link fencing. That was a customer's, was it? We had to repair?
Yeah.
Did we have to remove it or something to do a repair to our meter?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was
And it was such such that we couldn't do the work ourselves, the staff could.
Yes, I decided that it would be best to have somebody else get it done at a time that would make the customer happier.
Was this the church, or this is something?
Was it
This is
address
off
on
of Happy Valley,
Yeah.
down from,
This is Happy Valley Road.
7084.
I don't believe it's a church though, it was,
It's in.
yeah, it was the individual.
what's that street?
So we had to just really cut the heck out of their fence?
Yeah, and we also, quite a bit, I believe the backhoe put like an immense amount of mud onto the fence.
It's right after the eucalyptus around the next corner, cause it looked nice when I went by it
Yeah,
today.
I've been.
The old barn on the
Yeah.
left-hand
Nice.
side.
Oh,
of
yeah,
it.
yeah,
It's all of a sudden like,
Yeah,
oh, it
Okay.
looks nice now. So it was just one of those things where,
I went by and thought, gee, it finally looks nice.
Yeah, we paid for it.
Yeah,
But-
I didn't realize we
yeah,
paid
it
for
was
it.
pretty obvious that's where the break was, and it was, I mean, it was right under the fence line.
yeah, it was right under the fence line.
It happens.
Not much to be done about it.
And, you know, with all the other things going on, and not wanting the customer to file a claim or something, that for us taking longer than it should, so. And I gotta tell you, if I could get one of my fences for this price done at home, yeah.
You willing to pay travel time?
Yeah,
The next bill I flagged was the calipers, it's about 11,000, and this was not just a normal calipers bill. So, I did speak with Paul about it when I saw it, and he did explain it, and he would care to explain again for everybody else.
yeah, I think it's good to have at least one of these a year in here. In other words, all of the district is a member of the California Public Employees Retirement System. Every year, CalPERS provides both the employer and employee contribution to the retirement system. In this case, it's currently basically 7.75% for each. Also, every 2 years, they do what we also do for our OPEB, different, totally separate. But they do an unfunded accrued liability assessment. And at the beginning of the year, they came up with that the district's unfunded accrued liability for our past and current employees was about $120,000. And so they break it up and charge it $10,000 a month, $11,000 a month. So that's what this one is.
And the other one I flagged was the quadrant leasing.
Yeah.
Just for the Yahoo of it.
Yeah.
That's the last payment, but unfortunately, the equipment still sits in the room.
Man, I really want a bonfire, but this is done. They actually had until today to send me, they said they had until today to send me instructions for returning the equipment. We still have not received them. So I'm not really sure. I gotta check with a lawyer what we gotta do here, but
Abandoned property.
yeah, it's a
I would
bit,
send them a registered letter.
yeah.
We'll give them a few more
Another
days,
email
maybe it's
trail.
in the mail.
They don't want it.
Yeah,
It's all.
yeah, but what are they gonna do, voice this on some other floor,
Yeah, if we send them a registered a letter, then we have really cleared ourselves of any obligation we have, and they can't say, well, you kept it, so you owe us another month.
Yeah, I know, Shannon,
Did
We
we
know
pay,
that.
did we pay through them, the freight?
no,
No, okay,
So
because
what-
we have to pay for that.
yeah, they were gonna supply us with the, return instructions. There's North Valley Business Systems, I think that's their name, was the original supplier that they worked through on this. So we've already talked to them, and they said, yep, as soon as you get those instructions, call us, we'll come out and package it up and get it, and it costs this much money to package it and ship it.
We don't have to pay for the shipping, do we?
Yep.
Why?
It's
Is it in the contract?
It is in the contract.
You betcha.
Yeah, I tell you what, that was so frustrating to read that.
Well, but it's the end, so
Yes,
onward,
hopefully.
onward, but I think that we have to show that we have done our due diligence, and that's
Yeah,
what.
we do have an email trail, from them as well, that's been tracking this. In other words, I sent them the official note, I called them. So in the contract, by the way, you know, it took our lawyer to find the actual contract, because it was a one-pager that the district had signed, and it had a little web URL that said, this is the contract, that I'm sure nobody looked at. And it has in there like section 4, and it actually has a phone number, which they actually answered, that says you have to call this 30 days before and start this whole process and get the return instructions. And then it says you gotta go to section 12. I actually can remember this because I had to read it whole line. Go to section 12, and that's where it tells you you get return instructions. The leasee has to pay for the freight to return it and all of those stuff. So, so we have an email trail of all that, but I think a registered letter is good. And then I'd like in that letter tell them that, you know, we'll start charging them rent.
Yeah.
So it's actually certified, not registered, but
Yeah.
Storage fees.
registered if it's value, like cash or,
Okay,
Yeah.
or jewelry or something.
just get their signature.
Yeah, certified.
I was also looking at the check register, and I have a reason for asking this because I'm beginning to review the proposals from 3 prospective banks that we may change to. And one of the items is a possible fee for deposits greater than $25,000 a month. And was that cash deposits though? So all the checks that we see in here, that won't affect it, but, all right, so we probably will be okay for the first couple of years. Though we could hit it in the summertime as water usage goes up, I guess.
What are you talking about, Scott?
In the proposals that, we're looking at for
Yeah,
the
but you
bank,
This
the check register.
is at that 25.
Right,
Oh,
but these are
oh,
checks
okay.
and whatnot. This,
I'm looking at the wrong thing.
I think it's
the direct deposit, fee that's potential would be over 25,000 cash
Okay.
in a month.
Does our bank charge us now?
Well, we'll get into, you know, I don't wanna spend a lot of time with that
Okay.
because we're still working through, we're gonna propose more questions back to the 3 banks
Thanks.
to clarify things.
One check for 25,000 or withdrawals
No,
up to?
these were deposits. If you look at just the check
Accumulation.
register showing deposits, direct deposit amounts, that's all.
Okay.
I'm probably wasting our time bringing it up right now. So I get it back to you.
I thought that was payroll.
Yeah, that is payroll.
Was that payroll?
Yeah.
Did I not read it right?
So that section that you're referring to after the payables is actually all payroll. There's nothing in this report that shows, cash deposits.
Oh, I see what it is now. It didn't even, yeah, oh, there it is, paycheck, I missed that one corner there. Okay. My bad.
Anybody got anything else to say, so we can do a consent agenda or consent? Gizmo?
Otherwise I'll make a motion, but
Yeah, that's the point.
Everybody's happy? Anybody have anything to say out there?
I move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Okay, next up is old business, new business. The The first one is our, kind of standing bureau account reconciliation item. We had invited our, area manager, Don Vader. He accepted and, was planning to come, and I don't see him.
I was about to ask.
I guess the only thing, on the others, item, which is the reconciliation, we still have got, nothing new related to the 2022 letters that they sent to us, which was in reference to some items 2018, 2019. But they did just send, a 2022 water year, reconciliation. It was originally sent to Christie's email that has not been here forever, and so they said, well, we've never gotten a response, and so we're trying you, and I'm like, well, that's not great, it's about time.
Oh, yeah.
There it is. So we have, so we'll be working on that one and let you know. I don't know if it's gonna be much to it. And with that, we have Don Vader, who's here, our area manager, and we had invited him, and what good timing, you walk in right where,
We were talking about you.
I'm here late, sorry.
you can just use the podium there, actually.
Okay.
So, invite Don. Don was here last year, to give a little update on Bureau activities. He was, really great to help facilitate a, Trinity Hatchery tour. Obviously, working on a lot of other things, but he can give you an update on our water year, lake levels, and all that other good stuff. And, probably, provide any other updates, and like I said, any questions you have. So Don, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for
Appreciate
being
it.
here. I think we have a lot of new board members, right?
Yes, I think since the last time you were here, Director Johnston and Director Beaver have been appointed. And obviously, I think Director McVeigh is the only one that's been here, what, a year and?
Oh, no, I'm coming up
2 years?
2 years.
Yeah, Terry and I were here last year when he was.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this is Logan and Pam.
Hi.
Hi.
Well, thanks for having me over. I love coming out with a lecture full, it's easy, right? We're in really good shape on both Shasta and Trinity this year. Shasta's under 7 feet from the top, we're still creeping up. Trinity's over 85% full now, which is tremendous. And the good news on that is our 100% allocations that you all have, along with others, the lakes are gonna finish the end of September pretty high. So that means if we just get I'd like to say normal winter, which we all know what that means, is we can have the driest winter on record next year, for all we know. We're gonna be in good shape for anticipating a good number year next year for water, okay? I want to, a couple things about your district here. 2+ years ago, we had a lot of problems you guys are dealing with. Contract conversion, some water, all the stuff you were dealing with. We had 30-year drought, nothing was easy 2 years ago. I gotta give a lot of kudos to Paul. He came in and he's been wonderful to work with. He's been very good with me and my staff, and you've been able to accomplish your contract conversion. All your payments are done. That gives you. I was talking to Jake today. Jake Barron's from our little office. That frees you up on reclamation, RRA, right?
Yep.
You're out of that now. And you're gonna get an exemption from Denver here soon, right, Paul? Is that what you've heard?
Yeah.
That Jake confirmed that. Your tiered water pricing is gone now with this new contract conversion. I mean, that's a great step in 2 years to have made it, you know. So, you know, you need to take credit for that, you really do. Because you put yourself in a really, really solid position moving forward. What we're doing with reclamation, we're reconsulting on both the Sacramento side and the Trinity side, and just trying to figure out, the goal of the reconsultation is, let's not get ourselves in the same situation we were in 2022. Third year, worst 3-year drought California had in the northern part of the state. So we're gonna try to get some plans that you go in a year of first year drought, you kind of get, okay. Second year drought, you get more conservative. Third year drought, you get really conservative. Don't get yourself in the third year going, what do? We're out of water. So that's kind of the goal of reconsultation, is to not get ourselves in a situation again where we're just out of water, because you all know that California, you don't know what the next winter is gonna bring. El Nino, La Nino, every time I hear that, it's always a difference, but, you know. It really is, and I've been around here long enough now that, it's gonna be predicted dry, I kinda think, hey, that's good, because it'll be wet now, so that's how we're, but anyway, so we're trying to get a longer term plan operationally, that we just don't get ourselves to where we just handcuff ourselves in that third, fourth year of drought. So that's kind of where we're moving with this reconsultation. I gotta commend this district again, that, meeting with you guys 2+ years ago, it was just like, we gotta figure this out, and you did. So out there in the audience here, your board has done a wonderful job, okay? So thank you for that.
Can I just mention one other quick thing on your reconsultation? I know that one of the things that was pretty clear is why Trinity was not filling last year at the same pace that all the other reservoirs was because of their current constraints. In other words, you had to match your inflows with your outflows, if I recall right, regardless of the lake level, which doesn't really make a lot of common sense, right? So at least capturing some of that water. So that's the other real beauty of next year, right? Mm-hmm. Even if we even had just a normal or less than normal year, your Trinity is already at a level to where if you had to do your match your flows, you're not matching flows with the lake at 35%.
And Trinity, as we saw 2 years ago, Shasta was 150 feet down, we filled. That's what Shasta can do. It filled in 77 when we were 230 feet down. It filled in 78. So Trinity does not have the basin, it does not have that refill potential. So that's what this reconsultation is that don't draw on Trinity so hard that we get ourselves in a position, because Trinity is very important to this district. Yeah. And very, very important. So I think it's gonna be very, very positive moving forward, that, we're not gonna get ourselves to where zero allocations is the future here when we get into dry years. Okay?
Yeah, and I think I know for myself, but I'm sure members of the board and the community, that's part of what we're hoping for in the reconsultation. And I think that's part of the message too, is, when we're at zero allocation and the cost of wells and Cano water and everything else, when you can just run the calculation on what health and safety would be here, one pulse phone takes care of our health and safety. Yep. And that's an irritant, right? That's a challenge where, we have a contract for $50,300 if we.
Well, 50,000 would be great.
Yeah, but in other words, if we ever got to the point where you never got to zero, but you never got less than 5%, that would pretty close to cover our health and safety.
And just to piggyback with that, I thought I read somewhere that if it was an extreme hardship or something, that you could ask for water. So when we got a zero allocation and we're having to pay $470 an acre foot to draw from our wells, which should have been more emergency, I don't know if that qualifies as an emergency. In my mind, it's if we had breakdowns. So that was what I was concerned with, is if it says in there it's such a hardship, which it financially to our community, which it was when the rates had to go so high, I was just wondering if that was a sound argument to use.
Probably not. To be honest, the priority on Trinity is the Trinity Basin first, and that's where it's hard to argue that we should be diverting water across for, that's where it gets really tricky. And so we're secondary over here from the Trinity, that's a fact. But I think what I'm gonna loop back to is that we just wanna get ourselves out of that situation, and that's why we don't wanna divert too much water during droughts, during consecutive drought years. And plan on never getting to the 0% allocation again, because that just cripples everybody. And so I think that's the reality of the whole situation. And you saw the Sac River, some of the contractors, they had 18%, which 75% was the worst they ever had. So it's, everybody felt the burden, including you, but, we're just trying to build a better plan that we can kind of better cushion these multi-drought years, because that's what we need to do.
I just would also mention, since we do have a lot of new members, we've been talking about putting together in the fall a tour of all the Shasta facilities, which is where his office is, but more importantly, just the fact
We
that.
picketed that.
No, it's because,
That was the overlook one.
Yeah.
I don't know what your map there you have here, all is that just your local district?
Yeah, this is just our district.
Because I put one together, I finally got one made from whatever you call them, these guys that do maps, but, it's so complicated when you look at Shasta on this side, and you look at Buckhorn, and then you go over here. How complicated what we have to manage out of my office, because we're trying to make sure we supply the Trinity water they need, and then how much we can divert and all this. It's a pretty complex plumbing issue. But Trinity, the reality is Trinity does not get the refill that Shasta does. And so we see that every time.
But isn't some of that because you let out so much that was unusual? Are you gonna be doing that?
No, that's what we're gonna guard against doing that, because Trinity, when it gets really low, we get really issues with temperatures on the Trinity River. So we wanna keep storage up in Trinity a little bit higher than we did in 2021. And that was the state water board, I'll throw them under the bus here. So, never forget. I hope that doesn't make the minutes, guys, sorry.
No, you're being recorded.
We were instructed to divert a lot of water in 2021, the second year of the drought, out of Trinity, to prop Shasta up so we can maintain temperatures on the Sac River for the winter run. And it wasn't enough. 2021 was a really weird year. We had snowpack in the Sierras, 600,000 acre feet of storage. They call it storage. They call snowpack storage. Okay. None of that came down into the trips. It got so hot so quick. It was so dry.
Oh, just absorbed into.
600,000 acre feet that we thought was storage never got into our system. And in the meantime, we're drawing so hard on Trinity, and so what I've got for my operators is that we're not going to do that ever again, to where we get ourselves in that situation. So we got to dial those allocations back a little bit earlier than we did, and that way, when we get these really bad consecutive drought years, everybody's just not totally handcuffed with what our allocations can be, because we can't control hydrology. We could build more storage in this state. We'd like to raise Shasta and get 600,000 more acre feet of storage in Shasta. We're trying. So that's kind of what our limitations are. So yeah, we're not going to do what you just mentioned. We're not going to pull so hard on Trinity where we have nothing left. Because we've had a really fortunate 2 years on Trinity to get to where we're in good shape.
Can you talk about issues with Klamath and more sites too?
Yeah, certainly. Klamath, the upper Klamath doesn't really impact my operation, because we're obligated to, Trinity gets an allocation on water year type. This year it's a wet water year on Trinity, which is probably no surprise. They got 5 water year types. Extremely dry, normal, wet, extremely wet. Well, we're in the wet, which means 700,000 acre feet for the year go down. even with that, Trinity's still gonna be almost 1.8, 1.9 million at the end of the season, so that's really good. So, with the upper climate, all the stuff they're dealing with, the dam removal, all that, it doesn't impact what we do on the Central Valley, what we do here in our community, okay? None of that, Trinity, and Klamath water is really warm and really crappy, finally gets down to lower Klamath. We have to supplement late fall out of Trinity, because Trinity's nice crystal cold water that can help the lower Klamath. So we don't really have to integrate much with the upper Klamath, even the dam removal, so that doesn't really impact what we're gonna do in the future. Sites Reservoir is moving forward at a snail's pace. They did get their environmental impact statement completed. We have like a 15% share of sites, reclamation, of the volume of water, 1.5 million acre feet, which is a big reservoir for California. So what reclamation is doing is buying 15% of that supply to help supplement our environmental needs downstream of sites. So we don't have to release out of Shasta, okay? So it's a good investment, we're very supportive. Sites is gonna, Paul, I don't know if you've heard different, but you know, they're looking at a groundbreaking in late 2025, 26.
26.
You know, 4 years later, having the reservoir completed. Right now, there was something I saw on the media. Right now, science was in place that it was gonna be 80% full like 3 weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
That's over 1 million acre feet. That'd be really good for this valley, right?
Yes.
So reclamation is very supportive of sites. We got investment into it, and we're full on for that.
And maybe just from an operational side of things, in other words, if you've got a couple 100 acre feet of water the Bureau has control over in sites, and they need, instead of releasing that from up here, they can release it from down there to take care of their environmental needs, which obviously is good for us.
Yeah, and that shapes the water year plan, meaning how much water can we give water service contractors that you are, how much percentage, and so they say, well, normally we wouldn't be able to do that, but now with sites, there is available storage for that. So that's the beauty of sites for us.
So will sites be a pump station to input water, or?
And it gets diverted at Red Bluff.
So you're gonna put the diversion dam back in?
No, the pumping plant there had extra capacity. So this fall, this spring, when you saw us, we were dumping 35,000 out of Shasta, had a lot of valves open, it was kind of nice to see.
Yeah.
You know, so they divert that excess water in the wintertime through the pumping plant into the canal. Gravity feeds down the sites, there's a couple minor pumping plants that pump it up into the new reservoir. So that's all, it's pretty much gravity fed.
In Glenn County it starts pumping, or?
No, Glenn County's not gonna be, we don't divert from Glenn. That was one of the original plans out of GCID, but no, it's all.
Yeah, because I was working at Orville like 7 years ago when that was the plan.
Yeah, so there was plans to put a new diversion out of the river, underneath I-5 and all kinds of things, and that all kind of got scaled back, but the main diversion is a Red Bluff out of the pumping plant. Gravity feed down the sites, the new reservoir, and like I said, they go through the plan, and they would said, had, with as much excess was going past that, they could have filled sites 80% a few weeks ago. Did you hear the same thing, Paul?
What's that?
Did you hear the same thing?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
And even in 2021, I kept saying, sites had 1 million acre feet available in 2021. That terrible year we had here. That'd been nice.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So the Sites Reservoir really doesn't have much of a watershed.
No, it's all excess, it's
Yeah.
basically excess storage off the Sacramento River, and we get these winter storms that come through, and it's all going down to the delta on out. At the time that they don't really need all that big storm flow, so they need it later on in the season. So that's the beauty of sites. Sites is a really good idea. I'm just
It's taken forever.
yeah. And if you've ever been out west of Maxwell there, when I first got here 15 plus years ago, it was like, they were thinking of Sites Reservoir clear back to the 1950s, right? You go out there where the sites is gonna be, it looks like 1950s. There's like 2 houses there and one stop sign, and there's nothing out there. So it's not, it's a valley that's really just nothing there. So it doesn't impact a whole lot of things. It's just, it seems like a really good, and it's off-stream storage that we don't get impacted by all the constraints from the state and, you know, all the regulations that you have, because you just use an excess water, fill it, and then you're gonna release it as you need, as the needs come.
Right.
Yeah.
Back to the Klamath real quick,
Yeah.
you mentioned the bad water conditions down there on the lower Klamath, and that influences Trinity outflow. With the removal of the dams, the primary argument being that those hydroelectric dams that really aren't core water storage can negatively impact water quality immensely. Is there any prediction that the need for outflow from Trinity to supplement conditions at the mouth of Klamath is going to decrease? Or is that just kind of a factor?
I think it's a work in progress. I don't think we've been able to analyze that to conclusively say it's gonna be a positive or negative impact. But you're right, there's a potential though that removing the dams, that would help the water quality later on in the fall, where we're obligated to release out of Trinity. So that's yet to come, I think, is the best answer I'm getting on that.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Because right now, they've got, all that sediment and all the issues they have.
Yeah, the water quality is not great at the moment.
Yeah, but yeah, so it's gonna take a few years of, you know, let us know. But I haven't really been involved in the whole analysis on that yet, so I'm just sorry I can't give you a better answer.
I have a question.
Yeah.
And I think I asked it last time, but not quite necessarily correctly. Rainbow Lake, I know the Bureau doesn't have much say in it, but does the Bureau have any control over releases into North Cottonwood that then feed to Sacramento out of Rainbow Lake? That you're aware
Rainbow, who controls Rainbow
of?
Lake?
I don't know. I don't know.
It's a private
It's
lake.
kind of, yeah, I know, but
Yeah.
sometimes
We
state
don't-
water board or someone may say, you know, you
Yeah.
release a certain amount.
We're not, yeah, we don't have any control over
Okay.
that.
My hope was you did have a little bit, and that we might use them as a source, you know,
Okay.
Okay,
And
there's no way of transferring is what I'm.
well, I can certainly look into that further. I'll just, yeah.
It's already been transferred, we built it for them.
I know. And then sold it to them. All right,
Thank you. And I do appreciate you acknowledging the board and their diligence and hard work to get the WinX payment paid off, the conversion contract, and all the rest of that stuff.
I can't understate how important that was, just for us and for you to get that completed, and hopefully your customers understand that, because I know how much grief you always get all the complaints and other accolades, so. Hopefully,
How are the other districts doing in that regard, that owe the money?
they're doing good, you know, everybody, 90% of them that signed up to do it have done it, so, yeah, it was a good opportunity, and so everybody took advantage of it.
Thank
Right.
you.
Thanks, Don.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, why you coming next year this time?
Yeah.
No, anytime, and even this fall, if you want me to come out and just tell you year-end how we're looking, I'd be more than happy.
Oh, appreciate it.
Okay?
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see, I don't think there was anything else, but very nice of them. I think there's, you know, again, y'all deserve a lot of credit for complying with the conversion contract components.
I like the fact that they're moving forward and trying to prevent the zero allocations. That's gonna be big for the future.
Really big, and I think, you know, his follow-on to Pam's comment is really what they're committed to. As Director Reader mentioned, you know, when you let out so much water in 2021 for maybe not, you know, good reasons, that really, and it really caused a long-term impact, because then they got so much rain in early 2023, and because of all the other rules, they weren't able to hold it back.
Yeah, and to let it go.
But once they got enough in there, this year was really leveraged onto that. So that's huge. And, you know, he's heard it, so has Jake Behrens, his guy, and the Clear Creek Fisheries Technical Committee. You know, I basically said, look, you know, you can't do that level of pulse flows when you have people at zero allocation. I mean, if you're gonna have zero allocation, then maybe you do no pulse flows, or you at least provide health and safety allocation to districts like us, then you can do your pulse flows, because that's the pulse flows in a drought can be argued as health and safety for the fish. So if we got a couple thousand acre feet of water, which is, you know, less, you know, a little over 10% of our total contract amount, but that would be enough to handle health and safety.
If I remember correctly, I thought the wells were put in for emergencies only.
Yeah.
And so, but the Bureau expects us to pump out of them when they give us a low or zero allocation. And
Well, you heard what he said, it's not a valid reason
Yeah.
to put before him, so they're not gonna listen to it.
Yeah,
That was a good question though.
yes,
Now, what happened to, our sister on the pipe up here, what's the Centerville? When we got cut to zero, did they get cut to 10%?
No. They also had a zero allocation, and they had
So they had to purchase.
they had to purchase from McConnell Water.
yeah,
And so they were ahead of us, we went to City of Reading and whoever, and they already went to McConnell in line.
Well, the board at that time decided not to do anything and waited a month. And then at that time, all the water was sold.
yeah, McConnell's.
So that's why we had to go to City of Reading and use
Transfers.
our wells.
We got through it.
So when Centerville buys McConnell and we have a zero allocation, do we operate the treatment plant for Centerville only?
Now, of course, eventually we were able to purchase, you know, McConnell Water, and so there was, and actually, even if you purchase City of Reading water, it comes through our treatment plant.
Yep.
In other words, there's no connection to the city.
Right.
Where it's just it's a handshake transfer.
Acre feet or
Right,
whatever.
right.
Right.
You know, City of Reading's not gonna take 500 acre feet of water from their Sacramento, and they're giving us 500 acre feet, we're taking it from. So
Right.
it's our water and Centerville water that's being treated.
Got
It's a paper source in some ways, yes, even though it's the same physical source. All right, thank you, and again, it's great to have him willing to come here and talk to us. Next item is the ordinance 2024-03 water usage rates increase ordinance and 30-day notice. As the board will recall, we had this before you at our March 20th meeting. We then decided, the board directed me to hold a special meeting on the rate rationale, and we did that on April 3rd. Also in the April 1st bills and the newsletter, there was a notice that we would be considering a rate increase. Because of our new CUSI customer system, we're even be able to put that on everybody's bill, not just in their newsletter. And again, as per the old Prop 218, the 2021-05 ordinance that approved the rate rationale, any rate change increase takes a 30-day notice. So not only have we done a pre-notice, when you act today, it doesn't become effective for another 30 days. And so whatever we do here will not hit anybody's bill until June 1st, and obviously it'll be in the newsletter. In short, the current water usage rates for domestic is 52 cents per unit, and for agriculture or irrigation is 51 cents per unit. That's our current rates. What is in your packet here is a proposal to increase the domestic rate by 4 cents per unit to 56 cents per unit, and 3 cents per unit for agriculture irrigation water to 54 cents per unit. So the total increase is 4 cents for domestic and 3 cents for irrigation. There's some, some of the same background as last time. March of last year, after the initial allocation from the Bureau, we were still in a drought, but the usage rates changed from $1.04 a unit to 72 cents a unit, or 87 cents, and then it changed again to 72 and 71, and then eventually in June we went to the 52 and 51 cents. Again, one of the major discussion items was what makes up the usage rate, and the rate rationale again was as our community member Dennis Posan said, either it was vague for a reason or vague because it wasn't as clear. But as we talked about, the district since 2021 has looked at treatment as treatment materials and labor, and so that includes your chemicals, your utilities, and your O&M. The other thing too that was in the rate calculation is the 4.1% for reserves, and I'll show you when we get to the next item how we've been putting that money into the reserves. The other thing too that changed this rate calculation is that we had scheduled and put in our rate sheet 3,000 acre feet being delivered. We actually only delivered 2,200 acre feet. And so we've reduced that we've scheduled 2,500 acre feet. So again, if you had even the same cost divided by 2,500 acre feet, it's going to be a little bit more per acre foot than divided by 3,000 acre feet. So one of the things that was noted is that the actual cost per acre foot from the Bureau is slightly less than last year. So I just, because he mentioned it, wanted to mention that in your packet there is the rate sheet that has your cost of service and then your full cost rate, the RRA. Remember you made a comment about RRA, you won't have that anymore, we don't have that anymore. And then we have the restoration fund payments, which by the way, we include in that total cost from the Bureau in our chart. Just real quick, chlorine chemicals, 65,000, or about $26 an acre foot, or 6 cents per unit. Utilities, we looked at them, and there's been quite a rate increase from PG&E since we last approved our rates, but equals about 7 cents per unit. And then O&M at 9 cents per unit, and again, that's without any capital or major repair. That's just change the oil and fix things as they need it. I just can't resist mentioning, because Shannon's here and she was nice enough to print for me all our PG&E bills for the last year. And so in total, we are, just for reference sake, in April of 2023, we were paying 32 cents per kilowatt hour. Our last bill was 43 cents per kilowatt hour. That's a 34% increase. Off peak, that was peak. Off peak, we were paying 30 cents. Now we're paying, 42 cents, that was a 35% rate increase. So again, we took our last year's budget and we just added 20% to that to have our costs, as it relates to that. I mean, we know about all the other increased costs that we have out there. So in the end, you have your cost per acre foot from for M&I is 12 cents per unit, or $52.72, plus the treatment cost of 41 cents, plus the 4.1% for the reserves. That gives you your domestic rate of 56 cents per unit. And then you have your irrigation costs per acre foot is $43.80, or 10 cents per unit, and that's down about a penny and a half or so from last year. And the treatment cost of 41 cents per unit, so that gives you your 54 cents per unit for ag irrigation. So the reason why the ag water is going up 3 cents versus the irrigation domestic water going up 4 cents is because it's a little less input for the Bureau, penny less. So that's it. You have a resolution before you for that, and once it's considered by the board, like again, it would take effect on the June 1st bills.
Any comments? Well, it's here.
Anybody else want to go first? All right.
Get that in.
Try to be nice. Okay, so we had a finance committee meeting on the 9th, and we had some figures and budgeted amounts of what utilities was going to be at $85,000. And when we looked year to date through March, we were only at, which was weird, because if you take a look at what we had in the packet for the 9th, it was at $38,000. If you look at the current packet that we got for tonight, it's at $42,000 or $41,000. So there was a $4,000, must have been 42. So there's a $4,000 discrepancy from what we got on the 9th and what we had on tonight. So I know the numbers are fluid and there's probably an explanation for that. But what got me is that so in our packet then, you did reduce the amount from $85,000 for utilities down to $78,000. It looked like because it was a little high, because year to date we're at $39,000 for it was $38,000 for utilities, and I tried to calculate it out to the end of June, even adding another $12,000, and then on top of that adding 10%. So is it really that, are we really at 34% increase? So then I went back and I looked at 2022 figures versus 22 to 23, and I looked at chemicals also, and they're tracking almost the same from 22 to 23 to 23 to 24. And the same thing with the utilities, it tracked actually the same. So I don't understand the figures of a 34% increase, so that's just odd to me when I look at what we have posted and what we have. So when I'm trying to understand all of this and calculate stuff and see, are we actually overestimating a little bit? And yeah, it's a penny or two, but if we're overestimating, that hits me wrong, that we should be a little bit more accurate with it. But if we were trending the same in 2022 to 2023 to 23 to 24, why are we jumping so significant? Because if you look at the figures for utilities was at $26 an acre foot for the this one, and I don't even know when this one was. This says for the 24-25 year, we had utilities at $26 an acre foot, and now we've jumped up to, and then we jumped to 31, and then we jumped for another one. I guess it's the other sheet that you're in, and so then another one jumped to 80. The utilities are at $80 an acre foot. So it just, when I look at this and then I look at the numbers and then I go, well, crap, and so I spent the weekend trying to go back and look at numbers, and then this packet's so completely different than the packet from the 9th. The fluidity of it just bothers me, because the numbers just seem to be fluid. We're trying to get to a number and we just seem to increase something. So that's my frustrating part. When you look at the chemicals, we're on track with chemicals to only be about 30,000 or so, and we've or 35, and we've doubled that to 65,000. We've doubled it, 50% increase on chemicals, but yet they were the same for 2022-23 to 23-24. Help me understand that.
Well, the utility costs that you had at the finance committee was obviously a draft that I had received from Bill, and taking a look at it, it had a 30% increase over the previous budget amount. So I thought that didn't really make much sense, since there was already some other items built in. So this number is 20% more than the previous budget. So the reason why it's $21 per unit in our current rates is because it was a budgeted utility cost of $65,000 or $62,000 divided by 3,000 acre feet. So that gets you $21 a unit or an acre foot. So you take your, well, and you know, in the end, we only had 2,200 acre feet to go through the plant.
But our utilities are only gonna be 62,000, so we didn't lose any money going to 22. I calculated that out. It was, yeah, you're correct, it was calculated at 3,000, but then did we lose money by that? Because that was the talk at the time, and we didn't lose any money.
There was no expense and no collection.
So, again, when the 2,200 acre feet is being purchased and paid for, it's in that rate is the 7 cents per unit of that pays for the electricity, so, or the utilities, so the utilities are coming in less, right? So, but that 7 cents is still paying for the per unit cost of electricity at that time. So that's, that's just how the number was calculated. I mean, that is the way it's been calculated since 2021. And the same thing, we're running less than budgeted on our chemicals because we're not running as much water through, right?
Right.
So, but that per unit cost is covering the cost of those chemicals, even at the lower gross amount.
I think we're overestimating. The chemicals have doubled, when in the last 2 years, they've actually been, the chemical costs have been about the same for the last 2 years.
Well, actually, if I remember in conversations with our plant operator, they had gone up significantly last year during the pandemic and whatnot. I remember seeing bills that had gone up quite a bit, and then they leveled back off this year.
So if you take a look at, I pulled the budgets, I
Okay.
pulled 22 to 23, and then I pulled July 22 through March 23rd, because that's all I could find, the same thing as what we currently have.
Right.
And we were running about the same as what we ran last year. And so, you know, 36,000 for utilities for 3/4 of the year versus 38,000 in the April 9th budget, because what you guys got in your packet says 42. So I don't know why that increased.
What water year was that?
This was 22, 23.
Was there any well water used?
No.
Okay.
No.
Anyways. That's my comments.
I didn't understand your, reply, how we can, we're putting less water through, but we're charging the same amount, using the same amount of chemicals, and if you're not putting the same amount of water through, you're not using the same amount of chemical.
Right, so when you treat an acre foot of water, it takes an amount of utilities, it takes an amount of chemicals, and obviously there's labor involved and all the rest of that. That's the 41 cents. So what we do is we take that and we break this out by those components, and we have our 2,500 acre feet that we have scheduled, right? That gives us our per acre foot amount. But that also gives us what we put in our budget for the expense side of the budget. So obviously, if there's less water coming through, we don't need as much chemicals, right? And we don't need as much, it's the same amount per unit that we need, it's just less overall. So that means our budget is gonna come in less actual expenses than we budgeted for. But, you know, we have less revenue in our water sales than we had projected. So that's just, you know, the way it's calculated, that's the way it's been calculated, that we use that. And so really on the energy side of things, the good news is the current rate for utilities, we've used less water, so we've used less utilities, even though we brought in the correct amount of revenue per unit to pay for the increased cost.
We also need to understand that even if we run no water through the filtration plant, there is still gonna be utility costs. You gotta keep the lights on, you've got all your pumps and whatnot running, you've got your AT&T.
Yeah.
And could the answer to Beverly's question be that, that I have to say Beverly and Scott have worked on getting some of the utility bills reduced?
Especially the well standby. We've saved about $35,000.
Yeah, most of those reductions are not related specifically to the treatment plant. Some of them are, but not all of them.
So if, just one more question, if through, and let me find the 3,000 back again. So if utilities, and this one, did you ever tell me why we had $4,000 more from what we had 10 days ago, 8 days ago?
For what? Which one?
Utilities for the waste treatment plant?
Water treatment.
Oh, that was because putting together that, Bill had just sent that to me, and he had taken the previous budget and threw in 30% increase on it. So that's what I thought.
No, line 30,100 on utilities.
This is actual expenses.
Yeah, actually.
22,415, budgeted 56,250.
So we are on item B, 6B. Tell me what you're looking at.
Okay, well it all ties in because it's the breakdown on utilities on the form. So so when you have a budget, so let's say we budgeted 75 this last year for utilities. I don't remember what we budgeted for.
Pretty close to that.
Okay, and then what you said was that you just increased it by 20%. But if we only use 60,000 of that budget, why are we not increasing the 60,000 by 20%? Why are we increasing the budget of 75,000? So it's just the numbers off of the form for the water rate increase. If I've got to try to calculate the utilities, I've got to go to that other sheet and look at the through March of the numbers. So we can discuss the 4,000 later. That's fine. Okay, I'm done.
I have a question, comment. It sounds like utilities is a big, cost here, and I'm wondering if there's a way, especially with PG&E, a way so that the districts can be less dependent on PG&E.
We've had solar
Can
people
you,
come in.
can you state your name for the record?
I'm Anna.
Anna.
Go ahead, what were you saying?
Charlie, what did you say?
So, yeah, I think,
Solar people came in and approached the board before. and
Years ago.
They've been shot down.
yeah, clearly, we have not done much as it relates to that up till now, but, it would be a strong consideration in our future, because in the location up there, it makes a lot of sense to do solar in particular. And it
We're
could,
just getting in a place where we financially could even look at something like that before we put it on. We're just, I mean, he congratulated us for getting set, but, we were on real shaky ground,
After that drought.
yes.
No,
Well,
prior to the
not
drought.
more, prior to the drought.
Well, prior management ran us into huge deficit spending, and we're just recovering.
And I wanna thank, especially y'all on board, Beverly and, Pickles and Scott McVeigh, and, for looking at the budget and really asking those questions. I really appreciate that as a consumer, and, yeah,
Thank you.
to the chair, just open it up for anyone from the public wishing to comment on this item.
Yeah, so on the solar end, like we just were talking, is there any kind of like the green, federal, go back, whatever, grants out there for an agency to put solar out?
The issue, I think, with that right now is with the grants we are currently administering, the district is, we are having to wait a long time to collect the reimbursement. We have, about 366,000 that we have expended that may take months to get back from the state. And that makes it real difficult to operate when they hold that money back.
We're just starting to build reserves so that we can do things like that.
But you're gonna build up reserves every month away from the PG&E bill, once it's live and going. And then the other question is I know that there's gonna be an upgrade in our system one day, but we have so much pressure out here, excessive pressure. That's why we have the brakes all the time. I've heard Scott say it a few times, but what about the micro turbines for slow and excessive pressure and production of power?
There was a proposal years ago made to the board about putting in some hydroelectric generation off of the Middletown conduit that would have been in a U shape with shut-off valves and whatnot, and then ran the generators through there. For whatever reason, nothing happened with it. At some point, it's definitely worth looking into again, because that might be an alternative to solar out there also, especially if we found a company that would put it in. We would maybe split the income 50-50 with them for the first number of years. If I remember reading correctly, it was like a 10-year, for them to recoup.
From what other agencies have done in the past is they'll put in solar and then they put in their micro generators as backup to their solar. So when the sun goes down, they're still producing power against PG&E or utility company with their flow. And so there's a couple ideas. It's been passed by the board many times, but I think the government and everything else is opening the door. There's not grants. Like you said, there's a 50-50 programs that contractors have with agencies and stuff that they might get the big solar rebate. We just get a better utility kilowatt usage fee.
So you may want to talk to Dennis Posen, because he was the one that actually presented that to the board back in 2017 or something like that. He had somebody come in that was making both of those proposals. So, but Talk to Dennis, cause he's got the skinny on it.
Yeah,
We have been willing to listen to anything, but first we had to be able to be above water to listen to anything.
yeah, but if we're gonna have $70,000 a year in utility bills,
Well, that's just the water treatment. We still have standby charges that we've been able to reduce.
so a couple hundred thousand a PG&E.
Then there's booster stations, this facility.
Just a system that would cut that in a third would be worth its own money.
We're gonna need a business proposal that makes sense though, that's cost effective for the district.
Especially those, the pipes out there, they're enough to generate just like Car Powerhouse does.
I agree. But we also are responsible for the maintenance of the pipes coming in.
Well, then we could sell access to the grid.
Well, I think we are getting to the point in which we can invite some proposals as it relates to that. I have, as one of our audience members mentioned, I've solarized every place I've been, basically. But wherever I've been at, so I'm a big fan of it. I know, I'm aware of the inline power generation stuff, and it really just needs the district to be operating in a sustainable manner to be able to entertain that.
Yes.
Right.
We're not quite there.
Okay.
Okay, what,
We're still working on water rates.
Water rates.
That's
yeah,
we're
what are we still looking at 4 cents and 3 cents?
Correct.
Correct.
That's the proposed in the ordinance.
My problem is, like I said last meeting, or the special meeting, was we told people to use as much water as we could, and now we're jacking up the price. And I still don't, how do you justify telling them to use more water and then pay more?
Well,
First of all, I don't think we're jacking up the price.
No,
And second of all, I have to say is, all you have to do is, go put some gas in your tank. And the fact is all of our guys drive gas-powered cars, whether it be the water treatment plant or the other one. I don't wanna pay any more than I have to, but, common sense says we're not jacking up the prices. Because some of this money, especially for the water treatment plant, will begin to pay for previous general managers deferred all maintenance. Not a little bit, all maintenance.
At the water treatment plant for a number of years.
And somehow, that's another hurdle we have to overcome, is getting we have filters that are offline. And other filters, we have 7 of them, so other ones are working. But we have other ones that are not in real good shape, but we've got to get them fixed.
You're not gonna get them fixed with that 4%, or 4 cents.
No, that's gonna be a capital improvement.
Right.
So,
So we're dealing with O&M, really, operations and maintenance. The valves that have to be replaced, and the actuators that are running 8 to 12,000
I
apiece.
saw the thing that Paul put out, but I don't know.
you're,
Go ahead, Pam, go ahead.
you're talking about 10 or 15, I'm in agricultural. You're talking about maybe $15 a month for me. Would I like not to spend it? No. But the fact is, I unfortunately see the rest of everything we depend on going up, and it hits us here too.
I'm just wondering how we explain it to some little old lady that's, not able to buy food, why we're charging her more for.
Well, she's
for
gonna be
water.
paying at the most 5 cents more a month, because little old ladies unfortunately only use 3. People, a significant amount of people, yeah,
You know,
only.
so you're
Wait,
talking,
only one person can talk.
my apologies.
Thank you.
That's the dilemma that I face. Is it a hardship to these little guys? It's not. Is it morally correct? That's where I have the problem.
I'm just worried about the little guy. I think it's hard for them,
Well, everything right now is hard for anybody, but
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that our bills are any less needed to be paid. And the fact is that the chlorine still has to get paid for, our workers still get paid for, so, that's life.
Right. We ask them to use more water, and we're increasing the price of the water. So are they gonna use more water, or are we gonna be, instead of treating 300 or 3,000 acre feet, are we now gonna be down to 2,500, where it's gonna cost more again?
Hard to know.
Yeah.
Logan had
We're
a
currently
comment.
Yeah.
we're currently at 2,500 scheduled. Last year, actuals was 2,291 acre feet. Of that, 1,920 was M&I.
Caitlin had something to say.
Okay, what do you-
So is
No,
Logan.
go ahead,
No,
Caleb, go
Logan,
ahead.
go for it, go for it.
No, I'm trying to find it.
So I don't disagree with like Terry saying that, it's the little guy, but at the same time, the little guy is, like I've said, only using maybe a couple units and it's only gonna put them up a few cents. It's everything else that's gonna screw the little guy, unfortunately. Gas is over $5 a gallon again. Groceries are astronomical. If the little old lady comes in and says, well, why is my bill an extra 50 cents more a month? We have enough accounting, the district is accountable now, that they can break it down and say, this is where this money is going. It's not like it used to be where it was, oh, well, it's in my pocket, sorry, I can't tell you where it went. We can actually say like, okay, well, this was the cost of our chlorine last year, this is the cost of our chlorine this year. Unfortunately, we have to go up a couple cents because we have to compensate for that extra, double the cost of chlorine at this point. It's the mid guy to the high guy, myself as a mid guy using probably 30-ish units a month, depending, in the summers. It's gonna suck, but it's unfortunately, we have to stay above water, and until we have a new rate structure going for up to 18 in another 2 years,
But
not
that's just
before
gonna
that.
increase it even more.
I know, but the few cents now is tolerable compared to the couple dollars later, which the couple dollars I'm not gonna be happy about, but that's another story.
Yeah, and then, I don't know if this is gonna make you feel any better, Terry, but if you go to the Clear Creek CSD rate increase proposal rationale, and you look at the sections dedicated to the rate schedule affordability, just for the base rate, with California minimum wage being what it is, a base rate under $118.85 a month is considered to be affordable. Just in the base rate, we're less than, or more than half that, right? So, in the grand scheme of things, in terms of affordability, this is still extremely affordable water. You throw 8 units that maybe a little lady's gonna use on top of that, plus it's never fun, right? Not even 8, but it's never fun to drive up prices or do anything like that. But in the reality, it's going to help us, and it's not going to hurt as badly as we might perceive.
We're not like PG&E, we're raising it,
We took
every couple months.
we took, the board members got,
Good time of use underwater.
yeah, board members, just so you know, board members got paid a stipend for, and we went from $150 to $100. I mean, we understand the fact that it hurts all of us because we all buy it.
Special meetings went from 50 to 25, and we
But the-
capped it at 2.
And, I mean, we don't wanna spend this money, but because the previous, people had spent us almost bankrupt, we're close. We have to continue to do what we're doing, and maybe at some time we'll get it enough under control that we don't have to raise it, and I hope that with the rest of us.
I just wanna say, thank you for your work and thank you for your service, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very informative.
We have more business, you can stick around.
No, but that's the entire thing.
Thank you, Anna.
Good night.
Good night.
Right, so you know, basically it takes a motion and 3 votes. If it doesn't pass, then we gotta go with something else.
Do I have a motion?
I will move that we approve the current water usage rate. That would be ordinance 2024-03, I believe.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
No,
No.
Okay, so 4-1.
three.
3-2.
I just don't think the calculations are correct. The amount of money is, to me, probably will be insignificant, but I just.
And I still think the little old lady needs.
All right, thank you very much for that. Next one is fiscal year 24, quarter 3, July 2023 through March 2024 actuals to budget. Just another reminder, mostly for the video, is that back when we modernized our budget making process in May of last year, and then eventually adopting the budget in June of 2023, we committed to having quarterly reports of budget to actuals so that the community and the board can review that. We also realized in the October first quarter review that we should include a balance sheet that had not previously been supplied to anybody in the past. That way you can keep track of some of the accounts. Just real quick, one of the other improvements that we made since that first review is breaking out the grant funds and reimbursements. So the reimbursements are under 16,000, and the expenses are under 8,000. Just to get really to the bottom line, you will see that our third quarter has a negative total income of 246,000. It's almost all primarily because of that one of those grants. In other words, the SCADA electrical improvement grant. We've got $435,000 in expenses that we've paid, and we've received about $68,000 from the state. So we are waiting on $367,188 from the state. A couple of items just to mention: we are still running a little over on our income on the base rate. Again, thanks to the decision the board made in this budget to implement the account clerk going to full-time in July of 2023, and tracking of delinquencies, sending notices, shop notices, and all the rest. We now, we brought in more revenue. Currently, based on this, we're tracking at about 2,615 base rates a month, which is clearly up a little bit. The other just quick items I would mention,
Can I ask you a quick question on that?
Yeah.
On the back, the delinquent accounts, at what stage of the game are we gonna go through and say, these we just need to write off, and so that we we get current and we know who needs to be paying and who doesn't need to be paying. Shannon, how is the new clerk doing as far as continuing what you did so much at?
She is doing very, very good. We are going to be going ahead and processing shut-offs here this coming month. We've had some training over the last few months, and we are ready to move to that stage where we will be sending out shut-off notices and diving deeper into going through collections, liens, and with our new system, it's going to be a lot easier than our old system. So it's going to be.
So with our new system, some of our accounts that we've been carrying for a long time, we can now with the new computer go forward on liens.
Yes, we will be
Okay,
able to.
that's good.
That'll probably cover the 90-day out portion.
Thank you.
So yeah, in short, we're looking at 90 days from now, which is the first full month of the new system, is when we can actually start ticking off some of those.
Great. I mean, because that's what we've been working for.
Now, a lot of those that are 90 days out, are they not the meters on a piece of property that are not receiving water at this time, just paying the 10, well, not paying the 1081? Is that correct? The majority of those are being billed monthly, just the 1081, because they're not receiving water?
We would have to do some research to be able to get a better answer for you, but we do have the 1081 accounts, and then we also have some accounts that are still shut off from previous shut off notices.
Okay,
So they are a 1081 now.
correct.
I
And
don't
at some
have the
point,
answers.
can we get those numbers? You know, it doesn't have to be, you know, right away, but just at some point, you know, how many customers are there that are being billed just 1081 a month?
Yes.
You know, and give us the breakdown.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, as you'll see under your operating report, we currently have 357 accounts that are 90+ days.
Right.
That's up from last month by over 100 accounts.
Mm-hmm.
But 60 days is actually down by about 100, so obviously there's a bunch that didn't pay at 60 days and they moved to 90. And as well as there's quite a few more accounts at the 30 days delinquent, which is why we gotta get on the shut-off notices. But I'm sure we can run some sort of a report with a new system that breaks out more of those accounts. You know, as you go through the budget actuals, there are things like the WIN Act payments, right? We budgeted for 200,000. We made all those payments prior to 12/31/23. So even though it looks like it's over budgeted, it's going to be right at it when it gets to the end of that. The increased amount for the treatment plant truck, that was mostly because of that truck was rear-ended. And so we had we paid for the repair, and then if you go back to the revenue under miscellaneous revenue, 30 of that 35,000, 5,000 of that is insurance reimbursement for that cost. Just like last time, we've had because of the leaks that we had in October, November, and some of them pretty significant. We are, way over budget on O&M for distribution, including inventory and control tools. Most of the over budget is really the inventory. In other words, because of the leaks, you're using fittings and pipe and whatever else from our supplies, and then you purchase the replacement for supplies to put that in inventory. The actual tools, we also know because that one, our main vehicle had to replace all the tools, but that was at budget. We spent $7,500 on the complete tool replacement. The water quality analysis is something that we haven't really broken out for budgeted before in the repair and maintenance side of things, so it kind of made up all of the repair and maintenance. It's clear that that is also the testing. Pace Labs, they don't have a 5-member public board, so when they contemplate raising their rates, they just raise them 15%. So we got to pay for it when we want our water analysis. I've been talking to other districts. One city is actually tried doing mail their samples to a Sacramento lab to get water quality analysis, and after about 2 months, they realized that was more costly, more challenging than just sticking with Pace Labs, which is right up off of 273. So we're all contemplating what are we going to do about this in the future, because that is an increased cost. The USA undergrounding, again, with all of the utilities, we think that they're going to see fewer 811 calls, because I talked to PG&E. It does not appear they're doing any undergrounding this year here in our district like they did last time. Obviously, they did Abigail Road, they did Olinda, they did an immense amount. Just on page 4, I'll just quickly go through it, then any questions, we can go back to the beginning. You can see on the boosters that we are, thanks to our hard work to keep badgering PG&E to keep our standby rates down, we are running under budget for our well and booster station area. In the admin side, the really big hit that we took was that October car insurance bill of $63,000 when we had budgeted about $30,000. So I've actually put in an inquiry in the JPIA to say, hey, I'd sure like to know now what you think it's going to be in October, because I got to start putting together a budget. One other item that is a bit of a challenge is, we've been paying our auditor and we've still not gotten our audit. We got another email today saying, oh yeah, we're sticking to our commitment to have, the FY22 done by the end of April, which, it's already 8 months late. Most of the other things I just would mention on page 5, we do have a health insurance, a little higher amount, and I've got Melissa looking into what makes that up. The CalPERS retirement contribution, that is higher, mostly because of what Director McVeigh had put in our previous thing. In other words, we hadn't budgeted for that extra $100,000 of what we needed to deal with. So again, we're trying to find out from them what our unfunded actuarial is for next year, or do we take care of that obligation this year. One of the on page 6, that I've got a big red highlight here. When you're looking at it, you'll see this really odd looking $110,999.17. It's called reconciliation discrepancies. So one of the things, and it is a legitimate reason why our audit for FY22 is running late, because they're also trying to gather information for FY23. But if I recall, the district went to QuickBooks July 1 of 2022. We didn't have a bookkeeper at the time, we didn't have anybody doing accounting. We brought in, Bill did the best he could to make payables, so we brought in a consulting bookkeeper who handled payables for 6 months. So all of the accounts that were set up for expenses didn't match the old system. So they didn't put any beginning balances in any of those things either. So the auditor found this and has identified a bunch of journal entries and a bunch of things. And so to try to get, so that impacts FY '23, and obviously it impacts FY '24. So there's about $110,000 that still need to get reallocated into the correct accounts that Melissa's working on to get them done by the end of this year, so that everything rolls into next year. And then obviously this previous year's reports all work. The overtime impacts from all the leaks and everything are still showing up as a little bit over on our wages and salary distribution, but not as much as before, mostly because this last quarter, we just didn't have as many leaks. The other expenses.
Can I ask you a quick question on that?
Sure.
We talked about, again, helping, the supervisor understand that, you know, if it's a midnight leak, that we turn it off, let the water go down, and then have the whole crew in the next day.
6 or 7, yeah.
I mean, helping them learn how to supervise and judge it correctly, so we're not paying for people there when they really don't need to be there except to sit around. Have we gotten anywhere on that?
Yeah, we don't, as previously reported, it doesn't appear we have any standardized on-call procedures as it relates to that. So I have 3 draft procedures from our neighboring districts to start working on that, because the goal is to get it implemented by July 1. So yeah, we're working on that. Interestingly enough, just about every other district I asked for are also either updating or creating new ones, because they realized they didn't necessarily have it as clear as it related to those as well.
So we will have it by July 1.
That is our, yes.
Okay.
And again, the last page just shows you the negative 246, which is really covered by the missing reimbursements from the state of 367. So again, we're on a thin margin. Like I said before, we're in the gray. Any questions or comments on that? I should just, well, actually before that, and then you can ask all the questions. I did include just the third quarter, which was a report run for January through March, just for informational purposes. And then at the end is the balance sheet. And again, there's mainly because we're on the audit, I might as well mention it. But first, in the first part under current assets, there's account number 5030, which is the reserves for expansion and modernization. That is the 1.8% of base rate. So if you go back and look at your January report, you will see that this number has been increased by the commensurate amount. I think it's 13,000 and change. And then same thing with the operational reserve. 5045, that's 4.1% of the usage rate, and that too has been increased since our January report. You might recall that account actually started with $1,004.
Yes.
So we're doing as the public wished and as the board wished, and that is put money into reserves. One of the things you'll notice that's different than your previous balance sheet is when you go to page 2, you've got a whole list of things like pipeline, backwash ponds, other equipment, buildings, and depreciation. So these are all things that when we converted from the previous system were not carried over, and the accounting firm doing our audit found. So these are items that are have been put in there. And then on page 3, we still haven't quite figured out how to zero out the WINAC repayment liability. So we do not have that $549,000 liability. So our bottom line would actually be closer to $7 million than $6.3 million. Any questions, comments?
One comment, I appreciate your work in getting the standby chargers from PG&E on the wells down significantly. We're down to about, just under 1,700 a month from where we were, what, 5,800 a month? So we're saving significant money there. Sometimes it's
Well,
going to be a disadvantage.
It's a month by month thing.
Yeah, it is. I understand that.
Did you sign us up for the care system?
Was there, have you found any traction with them, with my request, since we probably won't be using the wells at all this year? Is there anything we can do about saving a little more along those lines on that standby? I mean, if we're paying $1,500 a month for one of them, and there's no use at all year long, that's 18 grand. Yeah, I'd like to save.
Not currently. The response has been, if you need those wells in an emergency, there's a major impact on your conduit,
Yeah.
and you need to flip the switch, you gotta pay a standby charge. Otherwise, it'll take us 10 days to power up to your well.
We're paying on wells 1 and 2 for one standby, and then well 3 for another one. So I'm wondering if we couldn't eliminate one of those.
Possible.
Okay.
I'm not sure. We'd have to confirm or take a look at that. I mean, as I'll report later, I just met with our local Division of Drinking Water representative to try to deal with our lead line, inventory issues, lead and copper rule compliance. We've got the cross-connection control compliance regulations that are coming down. She did give us a heads up that there's potential some more water quality testing things that are coming. So I'm not sure if the state would actually allow us to not have all 3 wells available if we need it.
Thank you.
Can I just mention one other thing I forgot to mention? On our revenue side, we have scheduled this year to take $50,000 out of the WINAC reserve fund and pay back the operating fund, right? So even though it shows that there's a 0 amount here in the revenue, we have moved that money into our account, and Melissa was trying to figure out how to do that accounting because technically that money was already in the revenue side of things. But you'll also notice, and I know Director McVeigh mentioned this in our finance committee, that on page 1 of our balance sheet, that we currently have about $63,000 in that WINAC repayment fund. So the board may choose to start moving more of that money in to pay down that loan and cut back on the years. The other thing Director Fickus mentioned at the finance committee is how much the customers have been paying the $1.88 since September of 2021, and it hasn't always been put into the reserve account. It was just absorbed into the operating fund. So that should count as a repayment amount to the usage of the funds. So we are calculating that. We think that it was from September of 2021. There wasn't a deposit to the reserve account until somewhere around May of 2022. Somewhere around $30,000, I think, would be attributed to the pay down of that loan. So reduce the length of time that the fee would have to be there. But we'll get that, and my plan, the reason why I want that now is that's gonna go into our budget document, so that, in other words, that whole loan and repayment is put in that budget document, so it's in there for posterity, people know what it is. No action required, just most of this report, any comments?
I have questions.
Okay.
So again, the April 9th versus the April 17th, we've got a $4,000 increase on the water treatment utilities. And then I went to page 7, at the very end, and we jumped in 1 week, I mean, it says negative, but we got money supposedly coming in. We're about $25,000 more, in 1 week. So there had to have been other changes in this document, you know.
You might recall that at the finance committee, Melissa was here, right? And she had reported that there were a whole bunch of some reconciliation things that she was still working on.
Right, and I wrote those amounts down, but they don't equal 4,000, so.
Okay.
So you think there was other reconciliation things that she had to take care of?
Yeah, she didn't tell me all of them, she just said, I was able to go in and fix a bunch of the ones
Okay.
that I had identified. So
Okay.
this was the updated report, so that's the only thing I can explain. If you'd like me to get all the list of things that we changed, I can do that. And I know that there was, you might recall in that early report, there was, for the third quarter, in the payroll, there was more in the admin side of things. There was an incorrect amount. That's because somehow paychecks on first payroll in January started to attribute the account clerk, the admin assistant, and the bookkeeper to that line item instead of to the customer accounts line item. So that was one of the shifts in the money. I don't know if it, changed the bottom line. I think it just changed the difference.
Could we possibly, and especially when we do the rate schedules and that kind of thing, and then especially with this one within a week's time, can we somewhere put on there updated? You know, when you go to look at these two reports and you're going, well, what the heck happened? Somebody else came in, so it's like within a week's time, things change drastically. Yes, there's dates on them, but if at least it could say updated. And the same thing with the rate schedules, as I'm going back and trying to find all of them, sometimes they were drafts, or maybe that's the term to use, draft, or final, or like on one of them you did put a final. Just important, just when you're going back and researching.
I agree, we discussed that. It is challenging when you have kept so many documents in your records and you go back to figure out which ones I'm supposed to compare. So, if draft.
Just remember, the finance committee gets to look at stuff.
Oh, yes.
Nobody else saw that. You provided some input and feedback, and, there was some information, like our bookkeeper was there, like, yeah, there's a bunch of ones that we're gonna fix before we put it into the final. So, we'll just have to figure out a way to make sure it's noted.
I think draft is a good syllable to do that. And then it helps Melissa too, because she knows that this is not the final number, but this is what's in process. And then it helps everybody who has to look at all the numbers.
Yep.
Is it possible to do like the watermarking on like the page where?
Yeah, he's done that.
Yes,
Yeah.
it can be done.
Yeah, you just need to mark each different meeting's versions with.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Totally get it, because we have version 1 updated to version 2, the draft 3, the final 4.
Statement.
No, it's all good. I got that note down.
Yes, it is.
She's got that note down. And, again, I have to do it too, because everything I get from the bookkeeper, things keep changing, so sometimes I can't, well, which one is this one?
So it'll help you too.
I think I asked before, but in the fourth quarter, are they doing the tank inspections then? Are we coming up the next month or two for tank inspections? Because there's no money in you, and that's, item 40,420. We had budgeted 7,500.
I know the company and the guys were here recently, and I don't know.
So maybe there's no invoice for it.
Yeah, they may just be scheduling it, maybe just be scheduling it, I guess,
I understand. I saw the budget amount and there's been no expense yet.
right.
Do we need you need an action?
No,
No.
on this one, we don't have any changes to the budget. All right, the next two items are,
Can I, let me check, I'm sorry, I have one more question. Where are we? Line item 50,530, the equipment maintenance and lease, was it just quadrant? Was that the whole amount? Or do we have anything else is the copier under the lease too?
yep,
That's included in it, okay. So we'll have about half of that amount in the future.
that is, yeah, I think it's just the copier and quadrant in there right now. You know, one of the things that will, increase, so, you know, we're running slightly over budget under 53,015 under customer accounts and billing.
Yeah.
The building supplies and materials, that's all, there's, cost of harvest that processes now are mailed, so.
But by the same token, we're saving off of the excess copy charges through the lease with the copier, because when we were running all the newsletters and everything else through the copier here, the excess charges more than offset what Harvest is.
No, it's just good to point out that
Yeah,
at the end of the year, the equipment maintenance and lease is gonna be significantly less. Number one, we're no longer gonna have a folding machine and a stamp machine. And we've now had almost a year of the copier lease, really right base at the lease, with almost no extra cost to it because of the cost per sheet. Now, that means when we budget for next year, we're gonna have to increase this other line item, the cost, the building cost and stuff.
of course.
But ultimately, it's not gonna go up as much as we're saving.
Correct.
Anything else on that? If you think of something while you're not sleeping at night, send me an email.
I'm awake.
It's all good. This is good. I mean, listen, I think not unlike your previous, from our bureau folks, the fact that we're doing that, reviewing our budget to actuals and getting it out there, even if there are some inaccuracies on our own system, trying to catch up to previous inaccuracies. Everybody knows. It's on our website.
For the public to view, so if they don't understand,
Yes.
they can go to the website, they can ask questions, they're welcome to come here, ask questions, so they fully understand that we're not overcharging and.
So the next item is a couple of policies. You might recall about 6 months ago, we updated a lot of policies. Then our wonderful volunteer, Emily Rankin, took some vacation time and time away, and she hurt her back. And so she's back, and we've been working on some policies. One of the ones that we really wanted to get, if you're ready to approve it, fine. If you just have some items you want us to, edit, fine, or you not ready to move forward with it, that's fine too. Is this procurement and competitive bidding and emergency contracting policy? You might recall the current one that's on our website, I think was from 2008. So this is a real modernization of this. There's just been a few code updates and tweaks. We borrowed a few other policies. So the first section is with all the contracts code. We have sort of the policy fundamental principles. We have a conflict of interest mentioned in here. I think the most important, maybe not, I won't say important, the one significant thing is actually defining procurement authority. As you know, most agencies, districts, even private companies, their CEO has some sort of authority to sign something for up to a certain amount of money. So in this case, we're recommending 25,000. Then anything over that, you have to have, you go through your methods of procurement and all the rest. So you've got your kind of informal quotes, you have your quotes / RFPs, then you have your RFP sealed bids, and then obviously your capital improvement projects like the backwash ponds. Yeah.
When you're done.
Okay.
Just go ahead.
I'll just quickly go through this any question. And then you got to call for bids, and in our case we use PACE to handle all of this. And then you've got your maintenance and service contracts, you have equipment and material supplies, emergency purchases, and using to waive the competitive process, which we did for our Emergency South Booster Wells SCADA project. And then there's a kind of a definition of terms. So I think it's getting ready, and it's getting close. There's just a couple items I would mention. I think we may want to consider, we currently have a 5-year contract for our auditing services. I'm hoping that they'll get 22 done soon, and they'll get 26 done, or 23, FY23 done right after that. But we may want to consider, based on performance, maybe putting that out for proposals again. I don't know when the last time we did anything related to our legal services. Very happy with our legal services, but we may want to consider using this new procedures to put it out for proposals. Maybe some of our others. We obviously did that for our, for our uniform services and other things already. But with that, Director McVeigh, yeah.
Okay, I do like the idea of reviewing. Our auditor, under the terms of the agreement, since they are now 8 months behind, aren't they violating necessarily, if nothing else, the spirit of the agreement, which would enable us to get proposals from other companies? And as far as the legal, yeah, it's always good to see what else is out there. I know we're satisfied with our representation, but it doesn't hurt to look.
Well, especially at the rate, yes, we're getting a really pretty good, government rate. We are going through the RFP process for banks, and the board knows this, but we have a finance committee member helping with that. But if we change banks, that's going to come to the board. Back to the auditor. I've been talking to some of my colleagues, one of whom has the same company doing their audit at the same pace. So as a manager that really, really needs these audits done in the next few months, you have to weigh the contract versus the practicality. If we decided to move on to somebody else, we're not going to get the FY22 audit for another year.
Yeah.
Which we can't afford.
Can we do that? Didn't we sign a contract with them for 5 years?
Yeah, we did.
So how
But
can
if
we,
they're not performing
how can
under
we
the
move
terms,
on? Is there something in the contract says we can?
We haven't done a full assessment of it, but there were dates in which they were gonna deliver them within a period of time. And we would have to go through a process of saying that since you didn't make it to this date, you're in breach of the contract.
I hope we have a good liar. Yeah. But they're blaming us though, right?
Well, it's probably on both sides.
It's both sides, yeah. So that's why for the FY '22 one, since clearly there were issues with the way our system was made up that they identified, it took a long time for that. So that I would say there may be some, both sides could have some issues with that. But FY '23, if they don't get it done within the next few months, then we have some issues there.
Now, my real question actually goes back to the procurement authority. I meant to pull up the contract we have with you, because we did have a dollar limit on certain things, and I don't know if, giving you the authority to go up to 25,000 violates our agreement with your.
We're not voting on this tonight, are we?
Not necessarily. We
Well,
could,
then you
or
can look
not.
at it at home and see.
It went off the top, if you remembered what the limit was that we had approved without board approval. I just wanted to make sure that this one point did not conflict.
I don't believe it does, but I don't recall.
I don't either.
No, I think what we were looking for is, we're on the right track, we got any edits? If not, we'll clean it up and bring it back for approval next time.
Right.
Oh, okay. Because there's no ordinance that goes along with it.
I couldn't find an ordinance from the previous one, so I'm not, and that's the other reason why I'm a little hesitant to have you just approve it. What I'm asking for is, yes, this looks fine, bring this back for final approval. If I find out that it was done by ordinance last time, we'll do it by ordinance. If not, we'll just bring it back for a motion.
Well, she's got 2005-02.
Yeah, but I have to investigate that.
Yeah.
We were not in complete agreement on that.
Yeah.
I have one question.
Yes.
On this informal quotes, do you have a form that you're gonna use for informal quotes? Because you've got 3 different ones going: mail, email, or verbal quotes. And we used to have to, if we had a informal, we had to write down who we talked to and all of that.
So we do not currently have a form. What I do on these, so I've done it for like our computers and different things like that. Basically, I have a sheet that says I'm looking for a PC, and then XYZ company, Joe said. So basically the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's what I use to have it as my documentation. I haven't found anywhere where the district had any forms in the past.
Shouldn't we have one? Or, especially if it's not you doing it, you're gonna write everything down, but,
I agree with you, Matt. Totally.
if the guys go out to get something, they should have to use informal quotes too. They can't just go buy things, and they should be required to, have a form of some kind for you to sign off on.
Yeah, no, that's a really excellent question, because like I said, I do it. I do have it for our operators, but we need to update that form. Just give yourself a note. So in other words, for our fire hydrant replacement, obviously the costs are more than a few $1,000s. So they have a form that I developed for them, similar to what I use for the informal quote. And so they write down, Ferguson said it's this, somebody else said it's that, somebody else said it's that. So we need to formalize that.
To me, it also is important because you're very good at it. Who's to say the next guy I mean, we have to back it up because that's how they got in trouble.
Yeah.
And when we're not here, if there's nothing written in stone, then we got a problem.
No, you know, I think it's a really good comment and a good enhancement, and I want to talk to Emily about how to do it, but I'm almost thinking too that we have like an exhibit A or B that actually has a sample form.
Yeah.
Is staff using a purchase order when they purchase stuff?
Yeah, we use purchase orders. So what, like in this case, we get, we find out, we get a quote, we get the amount, we decide we're gonna get it from XYZ, get the hydrant, let's say, then Melissa has asked for a purchase order. One of the nice things about QuickBooks is you can turn that around, attach the quote.
I didn't see any real issues with it.
Okay.
So, the 25,000 though, I went, where did we talk about this before? Was it, we had this before? Or was it on something else like what Scott and you were going, what authority did we give you? And that.
Yeah, I just want to clarify.
Yeah,
That's all.
but it could have been that we saw this before and that's where my brain went, so.
I'm pretty sure it was under his contract, his
Yeah.
negotiation.
We did
contract.
have a limit on the contract,
Oh,
giving you the authority up to her.
Yeah.
well, the contract's on the web.
Most of the templates for other districts, it's a different number, but, you know, Emily and I said, I think this, you know, now that you asked, I was going to actually pull it up today and look, but.
I was too, when I did it.
All right, so we'll bring this back either with or without an ordinance once I resolve, my conversation with my good volunteer. How it's supposed to work. The next item, 6E, is is also really for your input and to bring back. Again, this one, it was done by ordinance way back in 2004. So I need to put together an ordinance, but I wanted to get it in front of you. We don't have to have much more conversation. I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but if you have any edits, and you wrote them in under paper there, just hand it to me and we'll get them put in. But again, this is, the ethics policy, standards of ethics, that we take it seriously, that we, uphold the Constitution, and all the laws. There's some conflict of interest elements here, and there's a recognition of incompatible offices.
One quick question.
Yep.
It's the last page, changes in director's compensation.
Yeah.
Do we need to put in there that there's a formula that you can only increase it by 5%?
That is the law.
Yeah,
Any more than that, and you actually have to take it to a vote of the customer.
I don't even, yeah. The only issue is because in the past, they did go from 100 to 150 in a blink of an eye. And do we, for future reference for any boards, do we need to maybe say, according to whatever law it is, or the 5% rule, or according to California court? Yeah, you can do it every year, but only 5%. You can only increase it by 5%. That would be my only
I
comment.
think it would be really beneficial to add something in there that says what the rules are.
Yeah.
It actually.
Just for the next board.
Yeah, it's great.
You're not gonna be here forever.
No, I'm not gonna be here forever.
Well, my ashes buried way back here.
We'll just put you in that bag of,
There you go.
yeah,
Vermiculite, whatever.
whatever it is.
I actually once looked up with that code on the 5%, and now I'm wondering, I must not have put that in the notes on this particular document, so. All right, anything else? The funny one is the old incompatible offices thing, that most people don't really pay much attention to that, but that's if one of you got appointed to or elected to be county supervisor, you would have to choose which office you wanted to keep. You can't have both.
Oh, darn.
What's their stipend?
What was that?
I said, what's their stipend?
Actually, they bumped it up quite a bit, didn't
I think they get insurance too.
Yes. But, okay, it's just something that has to be in this thing, but it's actually under statutes. By the way, we just got the letter today from the registrar for the upcoming election, dates, so we'll have to have something before you, for those of you that are up for election in November this year. All right, so again, if you find any edits, any misspelled words, get them to me, email them to me. If you're falling asleep and you need to wake up by reading this, you can send me an email. And then we'll bring that one back. That one does have to be done by ordinance. It was done by ordinance before.
I could read this 20 times and never find a misspelled word in it.
Okay, you have already figured out that's not my best of things, because that's why we have others that read through it to find those things. We need them.
Have spell check?
Oh, yeah. It's contextual spell that this is in. General manager's report, the new customer database software is moving along thanks to Shannon's hard work on this. Caitlin's coming up to speed. Our new account clerk, we were able to put messages on the bills about rate increases, website payments. We did have a little conversion issue where there were a number of customers who used to be charged 2 base rates and they got charged 1 base rate in the first bill cycle, so that seems to be fixed, but one of the other things we found out is it got fixed prospectively, it didn't backfill. So, the online portal, payment portal is working, the improvement in the payment processing now and the credit card handling, ACH payments. We also, again, to try to save money on our copier lease, we bought a little thermal receipt printer for all the people that come in and pay cash and things. What we used to do is we had a cash register. We put the cash in there and printed out a little cash receipt, and handed that to people. But with under COSI, you turn around and you put in their payment in their customer account, and we put it in a cash drawer, and it would print out the receipt, and it would just print it on our big printer. So now we have a little receipt printer. So that's been very effective. It also cleaned up our front counter by getting that old cash machine off there, cash register. So again, our account clerk is really getting up to speed and doing well. We are currently recruiting for an operator distribution 1, and it's posted on our website and on Indeed. We've got quite a few applicants, I would say. How many?
138.
Wow.
Sure like interviewing.
Well, we're gonna cut that down to 10.
Do it all.
That's great though. And then, I think as I mentioned before, now that we don't have a filled T3, D3, so half that position would spend their time at the treatment plant, provide backup, be on call 1 week a month. So now there's just 2 people at treatment. Treatment should actually have 3 people. We actually have an employee in our distribution that has expressed interest in treatment. But to be a T3, you have to have a lot of hours, and so I've been asking around. A lot of our fellow districts and cities have operator in training. So we're going to be, Bill's drafting up what that would look like. It's basically gives more time under a modified job description.
Does Shasta College have a program you can draw?
Yeah.
Those
Yeah, for the schooling and whatnot,
Yeah.
but then you still have the hours to put in.
So,
But they'll provide the workers' comp for you, so you don't have to pay that for the training.
Yeah, so we've already had, this last year, I don't know if we've got one in there right now, but we've had a couple of students come in and do some work, but they're like, for like 6 weeks. And so what we're looking for is somebody that can,
Do a whole year.
do a whole year, yeah.
so that would be a part-time person.
No,
So we're hiring 2 new people?
To replace one?
not yet. The plan would be to probably take one of our distribution guys and move them over to treatment full-time. And then this is replacing just one.
So basically, we're shorting, before it was half-time to help with Bill, correct?
Right.
And they came back and worked here, and so now we're shorting this area.
They're gonna be short for a half of a person, at least for a while, and we're gonna have to just see how that plays out. Yeah. Just not, I can't predetermine how that's gonna play out, and if we actually need to replace that or not. Just a few other things, I believe I reported to you, the county did a little hydrant, assessment of the Idaho, school. I reported that to the Idaho board. Something new I did this month, pre-COVID, the city of Reading, would have a monthly or every other month, what they call a utility coordinating council, or coordination council, and so I attended their second meeting since COVID, this last week. And so there's PG&E, Caltrans, Spectrum Cable, there's also, AT&T, and then pretty much all the districts in the cities there, because everybody's got projects going on somewhere in each other's jurisdiction. So it was kind of enlightening to see, to say the least. I know I've mentioned this before, but you know, last month we completed, I think it took me 45 hours to fill out all the paperwork and reporting for the state's reports. Had a little round table and found out a lot of other general managers are super irritated by this as well. So I did have a meeting yesterday, multi-purpose, with Katie Conigan, who's our Division of Drinking Water representative, and also the North State Lead and Copper person, and you know, just a couple things. One, find out what we're going to do to comply with the lead and copper rules, and so you know, just communicate to her again, you know, that this increased regulatory burden is really challenging to a lot of our districts. You know, if you're a Bay Area water district, they have a whole department that handles all the paperwork and regulatory compliance. So she admitted, because she lives up here, I know it's challenging, but and acknowledged that this new safer report is crazy. But she did give us some good news. Is we just completed a spreadsheet of inventorying all of our service lines, proving that we have no lead or copper in any of those. We are worried about some of the other rules on the lead and copper rule. One of the rules requires that districts offer lead testing in all their school sites at the district cost. We also are to offer lead testing to all child care facilities in our district. So Katie informed us, no, don't worry about that at the end of this year. You just have to get your inventory in by the October of this year, those other things are coming in years down the road. I met with, the utility director for the city of Anderson today. One of the things I know, you know this, but, when I came here, I was always baffled by the lack of relationship with any of our neighboring, districts. So, I go and meet with Iowa, and the utility director is fairly new. So he was the one who told me last month their board just approved their rate schedule, it's 5-year rate schedule. So on June 1st, they go up 24%. June 1st of next year, they go up 24%, and then it's 6% a year. One of the things in there is the regulatory compliance, and they've got the cross connection and backflow regulations that we are also needing to comply with. But so they have to actually hire a new person, a new employee that is a cross connection control specialist. They also have to put together a cross connection control plan. By the way, we have to do this too. So how we comply with that is going to be different than them. We can't afford that. So how we're going to do that, I'm not sure yet. But part of the reason why I was meeting with them is, hey, you're our neighbor. How about if we sign an agreement, we purchase some hours of your new cross connection control specialist to come and write us a cross connection control plan that we can get certified by the state and all the rest of that kind of stuff. Because one of the things we're struggling with is the city of Shasta Lake was taking the lead on this. They were going to also contract it out, and they called 3 companies, all of them in the Bay Area, and all of them just said, you guys, we're so busy in the Bay Area, we won't, you're too small, we're not coming. But if you join with some other agencies, we might be willing. But it's just an example of of some of the costs that we got coming down the line. I think I'll just leave it there. The rest of it is in this report. We already talked about the next item a little bit about the operations report, thanks to Shannon's.
There was something in there that I wanted to ask about. It says down here that the LIHWAP is no longer accepting application as the program ended March 31st.
Yeah.
So that means the people are not gonna get any more help.
At this time, that is correct. Through the law, yes.
So that means we're really gonna have to watch our bills.
Now, was you able to get a hold of the nation's finest? Did they come out?
Yes, I had a rep actually come by and drop off some information as well. And it is specifically for veterans, which is a great benefit for them. However, it doesn't pertain to everybody in the district, but it is a good benefit for those that can qualify.
So, one of their guys, directors, he said it's all based, you get a 3-day notice in event, but he says they have grants now for indigent people, like just below, below poverty.
I have his contact information in my address book, so I can reach out to him to get a little bit more detail. But the pamphlets that were dropped off, we did have out front for those who were interested.
So yeah, if you get a 3-day notice, they might be able to help out, give them up to date and stuff.
Yeah.
But thank you. Look we're down to less than $100,000.
Oh, I know.
That's wonderful.
Remember when it used to be like almost 200 and 150, and so.
And we wrote off a whole like 268,000, I think. Was old debt.
118, 117. I had a question on the distribution operation report.
Yep.
He says, we are working on the schedule to start replacing the registers and endpoints.
Yep.
We're going to replace them by route numbers and go from there. I have no idea what that means.
So remember when you asked about the battery meters and mentioned to you that So those are the registers and transponders. They've been replacing them, those that are failing. So now they're to replace and install the ones that haven't been out there. That's what this is. So they're gonna go by routes. We have, how many routes do we have? Yeah, 11 routes. And so kind of basically you take a portion of a route and you go out and you do, let's say 30 meters down this street, out, down that street like that.
So that's the proper term, is more registered than just meters? It's the whole-
You know, it really is, and it's, when you say registers and endpoints, nobody understands what that is,
Yeah.
so we oftentimes say meters. So the physical meter that is spinning, all the rest of that stuff, we're not replacing those necessarily. And by the way, those are like $2,000 or $3,000 each.
Yeah.
So the transponders is the item above, the register above is the one that registers the spin.
Oh, okay, got it.
And then the transponder sends the radio signal so that it'll pick up driving by. So, excellent clarification. All right, we did have, on the committee side, we had an ag committee on April 10th, and we had a finance committee April 9th. Planning and steering committee, in some ways, a couple of those items we just reviewed were from them, but just a heads up, Director Beaver and Chair Lincoln, and we want to set a meeting here sometime, probably midday May, just for the committee, just to look at some ideas for a capital improvement plan. And then with that, April 10th meeting, anything to report, Director McVeigh or Johnson?
The April 10th meeting, well, I have been in touch with the Community Foundation Board. I will be meeting with them April 30th at the Community Center to discuss what they're looking for and what we can do to create a farmer's market. And then the next day, May 1st, we do have another Ag Committee meeting, and we'll discuss what I've discovered. Our goal is to try to have a farmer's market start early June, if it's feasible. So that's kind of what we're working towards.
Okay.
Okay.
Director Johnson, anything else?
No, that really is what we're looking for. There was quite a bit of conversation about certified versus uncertified markets and kind of the merits of each. If we go certified, we have to have a certified scale from the county. Everything's sold on weight. If they're uncertified, it's piecemeal, it's great.
Yeah, by piece.
Right. It's beautiful, it's simple. We also spent some time we basically made a decision to go with the farmer's market as opposed to putting that into farm trail at this time.
Just gotta lock a location down.
Right.
And that's what I'll try to do
Yeah.
over the 30th.
Be sure and ask Randy and Tara if they would be interested in it, because they might. And they own that whole lot, empty lot, and that's right where all people play baseball.
You're talking the lot right next to Bonnie's.
Yep.
Yeah. If the community center doesn't work out, then we'll go that route next. The community center though has the pavilion, the tables, better parking.
How much do we have to pay for that?
That's what I'm gonna find out.
The bathroom,
Possibly.
just gotta clean it.
And I've talked with Harry about possibilities of that. There's been a number of conversations back and forth by different people, and I'm trying to lock everything down. So it's better to meet with the whole board, discuss it with them. Is there any hold harmless or anything I can take with me to that meeting? I know through GPIA.
It was in your ag packet, I would just take that.
Okay, sounds fine. And then we did have the May financial, but we covered the third quarter, pretty much everything we covered tonight. We're supposed to be having a preliminary finance committee meeting to deal with the next fiscal budget. I do believe, so that we can bring it to the board. I have challenges with, May 15th though, the next board meeting. I have an EAGSA meeting at 2 p.m. that day. Those don't typically run more than about half hour, 45 minutes, so I could, if we need to do a 4 o'clock finance, that is something that I could probably do. I'll just be bouncing from one place to another.
Just for the board's, information, the other thing, the finance committee did look at a reserve policy. You might recall the last time one was done by the district was in like 08 or 09 as well. So this is one under their purview, so we're editing it to their input. But also just for the board's information, we did present to the finance committee that we sent an RFP to a whole bunch of banks. I think the district's been with Tri-County banks for 20 years. And so it's time to look at some alternatives. We've got 3 proposals. We are reviewing them, and we'll bring something to the board on that. The plan, Melissa, our bookkeeper accounting, is really wants to see July 1 as the implementation of that, and so she was thinking we would bring it to the June meeting, but the June meeting is late, so as you know, I'm going to be gone next week, and then we've got the JPIA and the ACWA conference. So I am thinking we may want to have a special meeting on the first Wednesday of the month of
We're
June.
talking June.
For June 5th. And a couple of things, just 2 items on that. One would be a budget workshop. In other words, I don't think we can get a budget workshop ready for you on May 15th.
No.
And it would be the bank selection. That way, if the board decides to move forward in a bank, then we have a whole month to actually get it all transitioned, get all the accounts set up and moved over. I think if we waited until June 20th, that would be too short.
Yeah.
So, anybody have a challenge with June 5th?
At this point, no.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of the Cal Poly semesters coming to an end at that point in time, and it shouldn't be an issue. Most of my stuff's on Mondays, so it should be fine.
Yes, yeah, I know. Actually, my wife's school finishes that Monday or Tuesday as well. So, but I think, if anybody else, you okay on the 5th?
I have a hair appointment, but no.
I've got to put out trash.
Like it's later in the evening, no.
What I need is a referral to the massage. I mean.
Oh, yeah.
So when would we do a finance committee?
Well, I would determine that, but my guess is
Prior to June
condition
5th,
for that, somewhere between the 15th and the
Yeah.
June 5th.
All right, so we will do a finance sometime in May.
That's it. All right, I think we're done.
Done.